What's going on, Titans Nation? It's your guy Jameson with Two Tone Station. Catching up with you guys again today. Happy Friday. Said it again earlier. I'd probably end up recording the Brian Callahan presser. I'm interested to hear what he's got to say. So before we dive into this video, if you guys have been enjoying your time hanging out, please go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. As we're watching this video, if you guys have any comments to add or any thoughts you'd like to add, please go ahead and drop those comments in the comment section. And as well as any recommendations. If you know of a video that you think I might like or may dislike, please drop those in the comments as well. I'm happy to dive into those. I'm really happy to dive into really all things and anything's Titans related. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this press conference. This actually happened yesterday. I think it was Brian Callahan and Kenneth Murray. Assume they'll be talking about, this preseason game coming up on Sunday against the Saints, as well as probably, I would imagine, these looming roster cuts that are coming up probably next week. So maybe even as early as right after the first or last preseason game, excuse me. So let's go ahead and dive into this press conference with Coach Callie and see what this fine young man has got to say. It's crazy. This dude is my age, not to give anyone any insight, but he's my age and the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I think that's so amazing. Gone are the days where it's these old timers. Pretty neat. All right, let's dive in.
I would imagine he's going to play in the game. And Arden Key was held out. He tweaked his hamstring yesterday. Don't think that's bad. Hopefully get him back next week. But just a minor hamstring tweak.
I don't know.
Really, other than that,
he was talking about
all the same everywhere else from the same guys. Nothing really new today outside of those two guys that didn't practice. So not a whole lot to say about the injury. It's pretty straightforward today.
Chavis went off.
Yeah, this is some kind of shoulder. I don't know how. I didn't seem bad, but those are just you wait and see. And but I don't think it was bad, but we'll see.
As far as Arden goes, until this, how do you think his camp had kind of gone? I know you guys have worked him a lot.
Yeah.
First group to get him ready in case he was available.
He's had a good camp. He's had a good camp. He's been physical. He's rushed well. Really pleased with where he's at. I think he's solidified himself as a legitimate outside backer that can play on all three downs, and he's done a really nice job. So happy with where he's at.
Except for the hamstring. That's a little bit of a bummer. Hopefully it's not one of those, hamstrings are tricky, man. Hopefully it's not one of those lingering hamstring issues that seems to hang around all season long. Or at least slows him down for a little bit. Hopefully it's just like a minor tweak and they're just holding him out to keep him from, feeling any tighter, getting any more tightness or straining it any further. So he is ready for week one. Let's hope that's the case. But nice to hear he's had a really good offseason. I figured as much. Last season, though, he was racking up 7 sacks every training camp practice, because he can't. Andre Dillard couldn't block a fucking traffic cone. I want to see it on the field, to be honest with you. I need Arden to be consistent because there were times where he would just kind of go missing. He can go MIA on the field, go silent, ghost mode. So let's see what he's got.
At the end of practice yesterday, Traylon came down, pulled him and went in. Back out there today, of course. But it seems like we see that kind of regularly, and I'm wondering if anything, he falls awkwardly sometimes.
Sometimes he does, yeah. It sure seemed like there is. Tua was doing some falling practice, I guess. So I've heard that you can maybe coach some of that. But I think the biggest thing with Trey is when receivers go up for those balls and they go and turn and land on their side a lot. And so he's really landed on the same hip 3 times from the OTAs early in camp and then again yesterday. So it just hurts like hell at the end of the day. He fights through it. I appreciate his toughness, and he's come back both days that he's landed on it. But those things hurt. the hit landing on your hip doesn't feel very good. So, but good to see him bounce back. I mean, he's a big, strong dude, and when he goes up in the air, there's a lot of body falling down. So sometimes the ground hurts a lot.
Gravity doesn't play around, but I mean, Traylon Burks doesn't have the luxury of nursing anything. I mean, I'm sorry you're sore, but given Traylon Burks' track record on the Tennessee Titans and his injury history, he needs to be out there, and any type of injury to Traylon Burks is honestly a detriment to his career with the Tennessee Titans at this point. That room is loaded, and Traylon needs to be out there. I do think he can be a difference maker. He's huge. He's a physical freak. He's had some bad injury luck, but at some point, you can only call it bad luck for so long before it becomes something more than that. So, wish Traylon nothing but the best, but hopefully he can get back out here. It sounds like he's toughing it out, which is awesome, but, I mean, he doesn't really have any other choice, in my opinion.
Is there something specific you were trying to get out of the situational drills today? It seemed like you were hammering something.
Yeah, we worked a little bit more red zone today. Worked 2 different 2-minute situations. One at the beginning of practice as an end of half. And then one at the end of the game was the last 2 minutes. So just 2 different 2-minute drives. Just need a little more work in that area. I'm glad we got some in the game the other day, but that's just operational stuff that we're just trying to make sure we get enough reps of before the training camp period is over. So a little emphasis on the 2-minute today.
Which is good because I heard during the joint practices when they went through red zone and 2-minute with the Seahawks that we were so bad on offense. Like it was just disjointed and it looked ugly. So probably a necessary evil here to make sure that you are fine-tuning and making sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to 2-minute and red zone offense, because those are 2 very, very critical pieces of the offense or aspects of the offense. Obviously 2-minute. We all know situationally you need to be able to work efficiently. You can't afford stupid operational penalties like false starts and holding penalties or delay of games, anything like that. You really can't afford those types of mental errors, especially in the 2-minute drill or 2-minute offense. And then obviously red zone offense, everything is condensed in the red zone. They always talk about it, and it makes sense. I mean, especially if they're playing like zone defense and there's zero space, right? Everything is, at least every piece of the field should be covered in some sort of capacity. So they need to really kind of hone in on that, especially if it wasn't looking so pretty against Seattle. So I like that they're doing that for sure.
How's the swing tackle battle going through this camp? You got several guys that are competing for 1 or 2 spots on the roster. How's that shaped up?
It's been, the best way to put it, it's been competitive. I mean, those guys have had good and bad moments as all battles go in training camp. I think JD's really started to come on in the last week. He's done some really nice things. John he's started the offseason well. I think when the pads came on, he sort of dipped, and now he sort of fought his way back into the battle. So he's done a nice job. It's competitive with Leroy as well and Jerron. I mean, we got guys that have played football that have done good things. This game will go. It'll be a big final part of the evaluation for those tackle spots. Need to see those guys play and play well when they get an opportunity. So. Yeah, as best I can say, it's been competitive, and there's been good and bad by all of them, and there's been ups and downs, and so I'm looking for someone to go grab a hold of those jobs.
Kind of evaluation of Chance Campbell, before you saw him, and then kind of what have you noticed about him?
Not as much as I would have, for as much as he's shown up. I mean, he's really done a nice job, but you see just that he flies around. He plays fast. He reads. He diagnoses. He plays with some instinct, and he's violent to the ball. He's made a bunch of tackles and hits on the quarterback, and he just keeps showing up. And I think that's the best compliment you can give a guy in training camp, is they just keep finding ways to open your eyes and you go, wow, what a play. Nice play, Chance. Nice play, Chance. And it just sort of happens every day. So that's the consistency of him making plays has been what's the most encouraging thing, is that it wasn't a one-time thing, and he's not very much dipped at all. He's sort of just kept his arrow up all the way through and keeps showing up. So really been a nice camp for him.
And that's something I noticed during these preseason games, both of them actually, is that Chance Campbell is always, if you watch almost every single play, he is near the ball. That man is full tilt to the ball until the whistle every single play. You can't ask for much more than that from a linebacker. I mean, the man is aggressive as hell, and he is not afraid to put his nose in there and get dirty, and that's exactly what he does. And like Callie just said, that he just has a knack for you find yourself every single day. Good play, Chance. Good play, Chance. Dang. Good play, Chance. Just that he keeps showing up. It's not like he's like, they're not like pulling him out and putting him up on a pedestal. The man is showing up and making plays, which you have to respect.
How many roster spots do you think are up for grabs here with a couple of days to go?
And then traditionally, there's probably
6, 7,
4 or 5 real spots up for grabs that are being competed for. And it's pretty standard every year. I think you're always looking. It's always those last 4 to 6 players, depending on position. And so those are the things that we'll be really keyed in on over this last game here and getting ready to make decisions. Again, special teams plays a huge role in all that too.
So if you think about what he just said, traditionally there's like 4 or 5 guys, right, that are really fighting for these final spots on the roster. That means they've already whittled down a lot of dudes that they're not holding over, they're not keeping. They're gonna release. So it sounds like they've mostly got kind of who they're keeping and who they're releasing already identified, with maybe a handful of dudes who are really kind of fighting for those final 4 or 5 spots.
Potential to use 1 or 2 of the IR spots that you can use on Tuesday as one or two of your 8?
Sure, those are always conversations, and you see where guys are at. Guys that can return, that could go on IR and return to play, that's obviously part of the process too. So, that's always going to be part of the conversation, is how do those spots come into play and where do they factor? And most years they factor some way, shape, or form. So I would think that that's something we'll explore as we get closer to the cutdown.
It's almost like a sneaky little way to carry over a couple extra guys.
It's much easier now than you used to have to cut a guy and tell him you're going to bring him back and have a handshake agreement, and usually a veteran player that you bring him back to carry a guy through to then put him on IR. So that's a benefit, being able to do that this year.
We've seen Weaver and Harrell kind of rotating with the onesie. So what have you seen from both of those guys, and what are you looking to see when they're with the onesie?
Yeah. 2 things. I mean, there's a run game part of it when they're rotating, the physicality, being able to set the edge and play physical in a run game. Both of those guys do that well. And then there's the pass rush part of it, is where they coming in to spell Arden and Harold. And then what does that look like? Are they being productive? Obviously, Jalen's had production in the games, sacking the quarterback. But so far, I've been really pleased with the way those guys have played, Jalen in particular. And Weave's really been really physical against the run in the games, which has been good to see. So I think we got a good mix of guys there in those 3 and 4 spots at the outside linebacker position,
which is good.
Talking about Rashad yesterday, he said he kind of plays best when he's angry.
Jalen Harrell, though, I said that in my first video. Jalen Harrell is going to be a beast, I'm telling y'all. The man is always getting to the quarterback. He's relentless. He's a dog, as Dennard. What am I talking about? This is a Denny's restaurant. Denard Wilson. Denard Wilson has constantly said he wants dogs, and this is what that man is. Jalen Harrell to a T. He's a dog. D-A-W-G, dog.
How do you get that level outside of
Yeah, it's our job as coaches, is to find a button or two that needs to be pushed, and I think Denard does an excellent job at finding those buttons when necessary. But yeah, it's a knowing the person and knowing what
makes you tick,
what gets them going, and doing that as much as possible.
Not sure if you put a percentage on it, but when you're evaluating those last couple of spots, how much comes down to what you see Sunday versus what you've seen this last month and a half?
It's just a part of the evaluation. So it's how are they in the meeting rooms? How do they conduct themselves in the building? What's their interactions like with the position group? How do they perform practice to practice? How do they perform when it counts, when there's a game? So all those things matter. There is definitely a weighted emphasis on the game because it's football. You get to see them actually go make plays and see if what you see in practice translates into a live action football game. And so it's a totality when you're looking at making a roster cut.
I told my wife I'm so jealous that Callie's got this hat. It is so pretty. It's like this metal plated logo in the middle of the hat, and it's freaking fuego. I love it.
But it's very rarely based on one game.
Can't find it
most of the
anywhere,
time there's going to be quite a bit of input
Nowhere.
from the entire course of the offseason and training camp. So, but the games they're important. So you want to see guys play well.
This is technically the last. Today's the last open day of practices. Is it the last day of camp? And if so, what changes next week as far as the schedule?
Yeah, this is the last day of training camp. In terms of training camp schedule, we really don't have much next week. You have 2-3 days you use to start the prep on Chicago, but we'll transition more into our regular season cadence next week for practice. It's still not going to be exact because it's not the same. It's not a full week, and then those guys have that mandatory time off on the weekend. So it'll be starting to transition into regular season spot. This is our last official training camp day. We'll still be in pads for sure once, maybe twice next week. We'll see where we're at, but the training camp portion per se is over, and we're transitioning into regular season, get ready to play.
Will, the adjustments that you guys have made in his mechanics.
Gonna start flying for
done.
real.
As part of that, does he also kind of have to relearn
So
now
pumped.
that he's throwing differently? Does he also kind of have to relearn, okay, the ball may go faster or further here, that sort of thing?
You'd have to ask him. He could tell you more in detail. That's a kind of quarterback to quarterback thing. Nothing that I've noticed would make it feel that way to me, to my eye, but that's more of a probably question for Will when you ask him about his mechanics. But no, I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe that there's an effect, positive or negative, to that. I think he's found his way through it.
That first period of offense didn't end great except for the penalty that set you up for the field goal.
Yeah.
The 2-minute period didn't end well.
No.
What did you think of those two?
Not what we're looking for. Obviously, you'd like to find yourself in position to go score points in a 2-minute drill.
So that's kind of an interesting gem there. So Kowarski pointed out that the 2-minute drill did not end well, or that period did not end well. And Callie admits that, that's not what they're looking for. And that's a little disheartening because it also didn't end well against Seattle. So that's kind of I wouldn't say it's like reason for alarm, but it's definitely not what you want to hear, that we're still struggling to succeed in our 2-minute offense. So hopefully they can get that corrected and ironed out here sooner rather than later. Time, clock's ticking, boys.
Defense, when they want to pin their ears back and rush, is hard to block. Our front's good. They've proven challenging for us. So, yeah, we'd certainly like to see better than what we saw today, but that's the ebbs and flows of camp. We've had some good drives, and we've had some ones that went the defense's way. So, as the head coach, I get to be excited that the defense played well because they did. But, yeah, I'd like to have gotten more from that, I think.
And I get that perspective. Right, you can say that we just have a really good defense. And I do believe that in my core that this defense is going to be really, really good. And I don't really have an issue with him downplaying it because I think it's there is truth to that. The offense is constantly going against the same looks, same guys, same skill sets. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But, I would prefer if there was a little bit of 50-50 here because it sounds like we've lost more than we've won when it comes to the 2-minute offense. But let's hope that our defense is freaking for real. I think they will be. I'm telling you, I went through it in my first video. Just Tavondre and Big Jeff alone, having 700 pounds of man coming at your, face right through the A and B gaps. That's scary business. Spooky season.
You thought he would be when you guys brought him in?
Yeah, absolutely. He is big and strong and fast and physical, and he plays football the way that linebackers are meant to play football. And he fits well with the system. Fits what Denard wants from the defense and the aggressiveness that he plays with. I've been really, really pleased with everything that he's brought from off the field to his performance on the field. He's had a really nice camp.
Kenneth Murray.
JC, or is he one of those rookies that sometimes can hit a wall in camp and just kind of?
Oh no, I've seen tremendous progress. He goes back and forth. He's got good days and bad days like all young players, but really yesterday, even in like one-on-ones, it's the technical things. You see him throwing hands and he's landing strikes and he's just doing things that he hadn't done as much of. So I see sort of kind of continuous slow improvement from him. Things that maybe as you're watching practice doesn't feel the same to your eyes when you watch. Like this kind of looks like JC's out there still, but I think his improvement's been really, really good and steady, which is what you're hoping for.
Coach, you said it's a combination of things when you're evaluating, those last few roster spots. But have you seen a guy make a team based on a really strong last preseason game before in your career? Or?
Yeah, it does happen. If a guy really shows up on special teams, I think really shows up making a bunch of plays. There's certainly a window for that to occur when someone really does something maybe they hadn't shown yet, and you see a flash of what they're capable of. That does happen. It does help. The most famous one, obviously, is that Terrell Davis runs down on that kickoff in Japan and makes a hell of a hit, and all of a sudden everybody wakes up like, oh, man, this guy could be a pretty good player. So that does happen. It's not out of the question. So we definitely encourage guys to, put your best foot forward and play as well as you can, because those things do happen, and it does matter if you put it on tape in a game.
You consider Kieris a distinctive
Yep, when you
kick
think
returner,
nobody's
or-
watching, somebody's watching. Guaranteed. Somebody's always watching. And these guys, whatever they put on film, I mean, their film is their resume. We're all worried about words on a piece of paper out here in the real world, but these guys, their resumes are their film. What you put on film is what teams are looking at. And so, take advantage of every opportunity that you've got. Even in the preseason, you never know, man. Never know unless you go out and you give it your best. Give it your all. And that's in anything you're doing in life. If you don't give it your all, I mean, you're never going to reap the full benefits of it. And, you'll never reach your full potential. And a lot of us have just so much potential that we haven't even unlocked yet.
or not quite that level yet?
Yeah, I think you got to earn that right. I don't know that he's earned that yet, but I liked what I've seen from him as a returner. He's done some really good things, but I would say to label him as anything other than just trying to make our team is probably premature. So like what I've seen, but hasn't been out there for the last few days either, so that doesn't help. But been solid.
When you talk about offensive linemen getting chemistry with one another, like Radens and NPF on the right, is it mainly timing?
That was a message.
About what the other
That was a message, man. Sorry, my brain was like really trying to process what he had just said. That was a message. I know, man. That's something you have to earn. I'm not ready to call anybody a starting anything. That's something you have to earn. How about we just, focus on making the team right now? Because you haven't even been out there the last few days. That's kind of disappointing. Whew. Some real words.
others do? What are some of the
All of it. The communication part's really big. Communicating what you're seeing, and centers and guards and tackles that play together. There's sort of a sense of what's going to happen. They play enough together. They feel whether they're snapping off a stunt or they're making a call that sometimes they don't get the call out and the defense is moving. It's those things where the chemistry and communication really come into play, and playing together for a long period of time benefits you because you just have a great understanding of what the guy next to you is doing. So that's probably the biggest difference. I mean, guys, you can certainly play together and not have that, but there's a benefit to the continuity of spending a lot of time playing together. In that regard, where you just understand what's happening with the other person. There's not a lot of communication that has to happen. You just know because you played with them for so long.
Yeah, I mean, you can trust them. You kind of know what their habits are, what their play styles are, what their drops are like, all that kind of stuff. It makes sense completely. It's almost like a chain link. You need all the links to make a chain. I mean, that's pretty real stuff, and it makes sense because, and I've said this multiple times now, that I think it's going to take a while for this offensive line to gel or reach its full potential. But that said, I feel like even before then, it's going to be better than the product we saw on the field not yesterday. What am I talking about? Sorry, guys, it's getting late. Last season, the product we saw last season with Andre Dillard and Jalen Duncan, and the season before that when we saw Dennis Daly. No, thank you. I'm done with that. J.C. Latham, step up to the plate. If you are the man, please stand up. I really hope you are. Lord, sweet baby Jesus, let him be the man.
How do you think the guys liked the surprise with Jelly Roll yesterday, and how do you think Devondre did sing alongside him?
Man, that was a cool moment. I think first of all, I love Jelly Roll's music. That's the first thing. He was everything I was hoping he would be when I met him in person. And I think Devondre said it before, but he's a huge country music fan, and so like that was a big moment for him. Like he loves Jelly Roll, and it was like really cool for him to be able to go up there and sing. And when Devondre, he took kind of which song did you want me to sing? And Devondre raised his hand. He called on him, and he told him he wanted to sing "Save Me," and he goes, "Why don't you come up and sing with me?" And so I think that was a really cool moment for Devondre. He came up afterward and he said, "Thanks, that was really cool. I appreciate him coming in here." But I thought his message to our team was fantastic. Just being a Titans fan for as long as he has, and what the team means to him and the community here was really cool to hear. I think it was cool for our players to hear. Just how much that the team itself has meant to him, and how much of a fan he is. So awesome experience. I don't know if I'll be able to top that team meeting. That was really cool. Yep.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that video with Jelly Roll talking to the team and T-Sweat singing with him, you definitely should check that out. It's on the Titans YouTube channel. Maybe I can add a quick link here for you guys to check it out. Definitely recommend that. Jelly Roll is such a great speaker. I think he could be a motivational speaker. I've watched his congressional addresses. I've watched him speak at the CMAs. I've watched a lot of his different speeches, and that man can speak. He is a public speaker at heart, and he can move people. Jelly Roll's awesome, man. But definitely encourage you to check out that video. It's super cool. T-Sweat gets with it, man, and the boys give him a little bit of a hard time. Every step he takes, we get a boom, boom, boom. Super funny stuff. Definitely check it out. But that's it for Callie. I'll let y'all check out Kenneth Murray separately. I just wanted to check out what Callie's got to say, hear his thoughts on kind of the roster cuts and what we're looking like for this final preseason game coming up on Sunday. Like I said earlier, I'll be checking out the preseason game on Sunday. If you guys want to come hang out, would be happy for you to do so. Go ahead and like this video before you take off. Subscribe to the channel. And with that, I will chat with you guys tomorrow. Have a great Friday night. Peace out and tighten up, guys.